This terrifying horror movie is back once again. Today we're looking at the Ghost Door chapter from the horror series. In 1998, workers renovating an old apartment building made a shocking discovery. Hidden inside one of the walls was the corpse of a woman. Police officers and reporters quickly arrived to investigate. But after seeing the news report, a local drunk suddenly lost his mind. He started screaming and ran out of his room. Moments later, he took his own life without warning. Realizing there was something deeply wrong with the building, the government brought in a spiritual medium to perform an exorcism. At first, everyone believed she knew exactly what she was doing. The moment she entered the building, she sensed the presence of earthbound spirits. These are evil ghosts that remain trapped where they died. They survive by feeding on the living. Over time, they had taken over the entire building. The medium tried to drive them away with a ritual, but the instant she sprinkled her blood, the evil spirits reflected the attack right back at her. It was obvious these ghosts were far more dangerous than expected. She immediately opened a spiritual realm and sent her soul inside to confront them directly. Unfortunately, the moment she entered, the ghosts noticed her, but she had no idea. Inside, she found a building resident handbook written in 1990. Just as she was about to read it, dozens of ghostly creatures suddenly appeared behind her. The spirits took control of her body and forced her to harm herself. With her final breath, she managed to tear a page from the handbook. After the medium's death, nobody dared to go near the building again. Little by little, it became a territory completely controlled by evil spirits. Then, in 2002, AU appeared. AU was the medium's son. He had inherited part of her spiritual abilities. For years, he had been investigating the truth behind his mother's death. One day, he accidentally received the page his mother had torn from the handbook before she died. AU immediately realized the page must be important. Otherwise, his mother would never have risked everything to take it with her. Determined to uncover the secret hidden within the list, AU traveled to the building on New Year's Eve. That night was special. Not only was it the time when the ghost gate opened, but it was also when the worlds of the living and the dead overlapped. AU hoped this would finally help him uncover the truth about what happened years ago. That way, his mother could finally rest in peace, and the souls trapped inside the building could be released as well. Soon, AU arrived at the abandoned building. Gathering his courage, he stepped inside. He wrote a protective talisman on the entrance door and cast a spell over it. This would prevent any spirits from escaping and make it easier for him to perform his rituals. After finishing, he continued deeper into the building. On the first floor, he noticed two pieces of graffiti on the wall. One warned that a ghost with multiple personalities lived there. The other claimed that earthbound spirits haunted the building. AU simply smiled. To him, ghosts were nothing to fear. He then headed up to the second floor. There, he discovered a bloody handprint on the wall. Without thinking much about it, he pulled out a map of the building. After locating the manager's office on the third floor, he immediately made his way there. According to his investigation, back in 1990, the building manager had murdered many residents with a shovel. The victims had all become earthbound spirits after death. This tragedy was also one of the main reasons his mother had died. Hoping to uncover more clues, AU entered the manager's office. To his surprise, he actually found a handbook inside. After comparing it carefully, he realized that the page his mother had torn out came from this very book. The missing page contained the resident records from September of 1990. AU had a strong feeling that the people who moved into the building that month were connected to the mystery, but just as he became completely focused on examining the records, suddenly the sound of a shovel being dragged across the floor echoed from outside the room. Realizing that an earthbound spirit might be nearby, AU quickly hid inside a cabinet. The story then shifts to 1996. At that time, Xiaoying, Taishun, and Yuanhao came to the building looking for excitement to prove they had actually been there. They spray-painted a message on the wall that read, "There are earthbound spirits here." This was the same graffiti that AU had seen earlier. After finishing the graffiti, the three friends headed straight to the rooftop. They had come to the building to capture footage of the mysterious snow moon. According to legend, this apartment building was the only place where people could witness the strange snow moon phenomenon. Even more incredible, the ghost gate would open that night, allowing spirits from another world to appear. The group planned to record everything with their camera. As time passed, however, Xiaoying couldn't see the legendary snow moon at all. He started to think the entire story was just a hoax. But just as they were about to leave, Yuanhao made a surprising discovery. The snow moon couldn't be seen with the naked eye. It could only be viewed through a camera lens. Not believing him, Xiaoying immediately grabbed the camera. The moment he looked through it, he realized Yuanhao had been telling the truth. The three friends were thrilled, but while they were admiring the strange moon, the rooftop door suddenly slammed shut behind them. The noise startled everyone. Taishun quickly ran over to check the door. No matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't open. A moment later, Xiaoying walked over as well. Strangely, he pushed the door lightly and it opened right away. Xiaoying couldn't help feeling speechless. He thought Taishun had simply been scared out of his mind, but the instant the door opened, an icy gust of wind rushed past them. The group didn't think much of it and continued downstairs. As they passed an old wardrobe, Xiaoying felt as if someone was breathing cold air onto the back of his neck. At first, he assumed one of his friends was playing a prank on him, but after looking around carefully, he discovered it was only the wind. The wardrobe doors were rattling softly. However, after witnessing this, Taishun suddenly looked terrified. "This room is sealed," he said. "There shouldn't be any wind in here." The moment those words left his mouth, All three of them felt chills run down their spines. Yuan Hao became so frightened that he could barely speak, because through the camera he had just seen something horrifying. Standing directly behind Xiaoying was a ghost. Seeing this, Yuan Hao and Tai Shun immediately turned and ran. Xiaoying, completely confused, chased after them. He clearly hadn't noticed anything unusual. Instead, he demanded to know why they had abandoned him. Since Xiaoying seemed perfectly normal, the others began to think they had imagined the ghost. But then Yuan Hao realized something. The camera was gone. He guessed he must have left it behind in the room. He wanted to go back and retrieve it, but he was terrified. Yuan Hao tried convincing Tai Shun to return with him. To his surprise, Tai Shun refused and left without even looking back. Now Yuan Hao didn't know what to do. As he stood there debating whether to return alone, a strange sound suddenly echoed beside him. Yuan Hao's face instantly turned pale with fear. Then something even stranger happened. In the blink of an eye, he mysteriously appeared ahead of Xiaoying. Xiaoying was completely confused. He was about to ask how Yuan Hao had suddenly gotten there, but before he could speak, a swarm of spirits suddenly rushed toward all three of them. Meanwhile, back in 2002, AU finally emerged from the cabinet after the noise faded away. He decided to use a ritual involving the doorway to travel back to September 10th, 1990, and witness what had happened on the day of the murders. He immediately began casting his spell. Slowly, everything around him started transforming back into its appearance from 1990, this time with the help of the handbook. AU used the handbook to locate the resident record for Wang Zhen, but the moment he tore the page from the book, desperate cries for help suddenly echoed from outside. He immediately realized what was happening. This was the exact moment when the building manager had begun his killing spree. AU didn't dare move. Only after the screams finally stopped did he step out of the room. He then made his way to room 203. Using the resident list, he planned to help the trapped souls move on one by one. However, just as he was about to perform a ritual on the man lying on the bed, the man's wife suddenly appeared. She rushed at him like a madwoman and attacked without warning. Fortunately, AU reacted quickly and avoided her assault. He then used his spiritual bell and successfully released both husband and wife from their suffering. After finishing the ritual, AU left the room. But suddenly, he heard the voices of Xiaoying and his friends nearby. AU guessed that some kind of time overlap had occurred. He also knew the three teenagers were in danger, so he shouted through the distorted space and warned them to find a place to hide immediately. A short while later, everything became quiet again. AU then entered room 204. He intended to release the spirit trapped inside. Instead, he unexpectedly discovered a little girl. She was curled up inside a wardrobe, too frightened to move. After questioning her, AU realized she wasn't listed among the building's residents. At first, he assumed she had been a visitor who happened to be in the building when the murders occurred. Without wasting any time, he took out his spiritual bell and prepared to help her pass on. But just before he could begin the ritual, the lights suddenly went out. The girl vanished instantly. AU assumed she was hiding somewhere. As he searched the room, an evil spirit suddenly appeared and wrapped itself around him. It tried to kill him the same way it had killed his mother. At the critical moment, AU used his powerful willpower to fight back and drive the spirit away. Afterward, he noticed a crumpled piece of paper beneath the bed. He picked it up and unfolded it. Inside was a missing person notice. The missing child shown in the notice was the same little girl he had just met. AU had a feeling there was something unusual about her. Just as he prepared to search for her, he was suddenly attacked by the building manager. AU was no match for him. The manager nearly knocked him unconscious. At the last possible second, AU heard the sound of a bell ringing. He immediately recognized it. It was his mother's call. His mother was protecting him, and sure enough, when he regained consciousness, the manager was gone. Even so, AU remained deeply worried. He knew that even if the manager didn't kill him, he would surely harm someone else. AU wanted to stop him, but before he could act, the little girl suddenly appeared again and blocked his path. She wanted him to follow her. AU hesitated. What he didn't realize was that the manager had already returned. Remembering how badly the previous encounter had gone, AU decided not to act brave anymore. He quickly followed the girl. As they passed the staircase, he accidentally left a bloody handprint on the wall, the same handprint he had seen earlier, but AU didn't notice it. Following closely behind the girl, he returned to room 204. There, she finally revealed the truth about her disappearance. Her name was A. Lee. She suffered from schizophrenia and was rejected by her father because of it. He believed she was a monster. Every day, he insulted her and beat her mercilessly. The kind-hearted side of A. Lee constantly begged her father to spare her, but whenever he stopped hurting her, another darker personality would suddenly emerge. This evil side of A. Lee would threaten and terrify him. Eventually, her father lost his temper. In a fit of rage, he shoved his daughter away, but the push accidentally caused her death. Her father panicked, yet instead of calling the police, he chose to protect himself. He wrapped his daughter's body in plastic bags. Then he hid her remains inside a wall, and that wasn't all. To make sure the truth never came to light, the girl's father had even claimed she was missing. To support the lie, he posted missing person flyers everywhere. What he didn't know was that his daughter had only been unconscious. When Ailey finally woke up, she found herself trapped inside the wall. She couldn't move at all. In the end, she slowly suffocated to death. At last, Ayu understood the truth. He also realized something else. After Ailey died, the evil spirit inside her had possessed the building manager. It was this spirit that eventually controlled him and drove him to massacre everyone in the building. Ayu immediately asked Ailey where the evil spirit was, but before she could answer, it suddenly appeared on its own. Without warning, it attacked him. Ayu stood no chance against it. In desperation, he used the ghost gate to travel through time again. He believed he had returned to 2002, but the ritual ritual had failed. Instead, he had accidentally traveled to 1996. What he didn't know was that Xiaoying and his friends were already experiencing a tragedy in the same timeline. Earlier, AU had shouted across time and told them to hide, but instead of listening, they kept running through the building. Strangely, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't leave the second floor. Xiaoying suspected they were trapped in a ghostly loop. As the group discussed what to do next, the manager suddenly appeared holding his shovel. Terrified, the three friends scattered in different directions. None of them noticed that Yuan Hao had already met a terrible fate behind them. Not long afterward, Xiaoying suddenly seemed possessed. He wandered into room 204. The next second, a ghostly hand grabbed him and dragged him away. The evil spirit began taking control of him. Fortunately, AU appeared just in time and pulled him back to reality. At this point, AU still believed he was in 2002. When he saw Xiaoying and Tai Shun, he assumed they were just a pair of reckless teenagers exploring the building. Wanting to keep them safe, he decided to lead them out himself. The three continued moving through the building together. Soon, however, AU realized they still couldn't escape. He couldn't understand it. If this was really the year 2002, why was it impossible to leave? While he was trying to figure it out, Tai Shun suddenly stared ahead in shock. AU lit a flare. The light revealed something horrifying. Lying in front of them was Yuan Hao's corpse. Xiaoying immediately wanted to run over and check on him, but AU stopped him. He was convinced this was a trap created by the evil spirits, and he was right. Moments later, Yuan Hao suddenly sat up. He claimed he had gone blind. Then he said that if they could find a key, they would be able to leave. AU ignored him. Instead, he noticed a key lying beneath Yuan Hao and picked it up himself. Naively, AU thought they had finally found a way out. But then a metal object fell from his body and caught Yuan Hao's attention. Yuan Hao immediately lunged at him. AU hoped Tai Shun would help. Instead, Tai Shun ran away by himself. Before leaving, he even tried to lock the door behind him. Watching this happen completely broke Xiaoying's heart. He never imagined his friend could be such a coward. Xiaoying held the door shut with all his strength. Just then, AU appeared and kicked Tai Shun away from the entrance. The three continued onward, but a short time later, Tai Shun suddenly seemed possessed as well. He grabbed a marker and wrote on the wall, "There is a ghost with multiple personalities here." Seeing this, AU finally realized something was terribly wrong. If this were really 2002, that message should have already been there years ago. It shouldn't be appearing right now. A cold chill ran through his entire body. He quickly asked Xiaoying what the date was. To his shock, Xiaoying told him it was 1996. Only then did AU realize he had traveled to the wrong year, and that meant something even more terrifying. The Xiaoying standing in front of him wasn't alive. He was already dead. Without hesitation, AU pulled out his spiritual bell and prepared to release Xiaoying's soul. Xiaoying couldn't accept what he was hearing, but his reaction only proved AU was right. Blood tears slowly streamed down his face. Even then, he refused to give up. He remembered what one of the spirits had told him. If AU died, he could live again. Driven mad by desperation, Xiaoying charged at AU. The two began fighting, but in the middle of the struggle, Tai Shun suddenly appeared and tried to kill Xiaoying. It turned out he had heard the same message from the spirits. Then Tai Shun turned his attention toward AU. To protect himself, AU fought back. By now, all three of them were badly injured. AU instinctively tried to escape, but Tai Shun suddenly appeared again and wrapped both hands around his throat. Before he could finish the job, Xiaoying rushed forward and stabbed him. At that moment, Xiaoying finally remembered what had happened that day. Tai Shun had murdered both him and Yuan Hao in order to save himself. Now, at last, Xiaoying had taken his revenge. After everything was over, Xiaoying approached AU. He no longer wanted to remain an earthbound spirit. He didn't want to keep reliving the same cycle forever, so he begged AU to use the spiritual bell and help him move on. AU agreed, but just as he was about to perform the ritual, the evil spirit suddenly appeared again. AU knew chasing after it would accomplish nothing, so he used the ghost gate and returned to 2002 once more. But something was wrong. Even after successfully returning, every door he opened led him back into the building. No matter what he tried, he couldn't leave. AU finally realized the horrifying truth. He too was trapped. He broke down in despair. Then, at last, he understood. He had already died. The talisman he had placed on the entrance earlier had created a barrier. Because he was now a spirit himself, he could never leave the building. He would remain trapped there forever.